so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness, which creates and animates all things. Now, of course, understanding this powerful truth is one thing. Applying this incredibly empowering wisdom to everyday life, well, that's another, which is exactly why we provide you with a fresh serving of soul food for thought 5 days a week to help constantly remind you of what matters most. You are it. And I'm your host, Brandon Beecham. I'm the reflection and extension of you who will be here each Wednesday interviewing a different consciousness changemaker. And on the other 4 weekdays, leading the way to ensure that your perspective is consistently expanded, your vibration is constantly elevated, and your heart is overflowing and full. Also, this episode of the Positive Head Podcast is being brought to you thanks to the support of Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online, and you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. All right, all you positive heads, welcome to the show. So happy to be back with you guys. I have my friend, brother, confidant, Christopher David Jackson here with me to help steer to the ship today. What's up, Chris? How are you, buddy?
Hello.
Here we are again.
Excited for today.
I'm excited too. So, Chris and I will end up talking about stuff, and I'm like, a lot of times we'll be, we decide, much like I always do with the show, what's bubbling up in my world on any given day and what feels like is supposed to come through, right? And a lot of times that ends up being like, we'll get on the phone or, online talking before we even know what we're going to record, and it'll start going into this deep conversation. And we pretty much did that already for 30 minutes plus this morning. I'm like, hold on, stop. I got a lot of other things to do, and this is all such good information that's happening here. Why don't we have the microphone turned on? And so we're going to do a little bit of a rewind. We weren't even sure what we were going to talk about. We were just catching up as friends. Hey, what's been going on with you? What was your weekend like? That kind of thing. And I started sharing with him an experience that I had, and the insight was so good. And as with all challenging sort of interactions, it's approaching them from why is this happening for me and how can I learn and grow from it is so powerful in my own right. But then having a reflection and friend who has other perspectives and insights to add on to that, it's just it makes every quote unquote challenging experience just so much more rich and full, and you actually get something out of it other than a disagreement and so what I'm going to do, guys, today is I'm going to just jump right in and just kind of back up and share a little bit what you guys are all my friends too. You are all my reflections, and share a little bit of something that I was dealing with in the last actually earlier this morning and a little bit last weekend with someone that I've been dating, and sort of some of the challenges that were bubbling up, and what are the lessons there? Why is this happening? And what is this teaching me about myself? And I was explaining, Chris, you were asking, how's it going? Is this like a crazy love match? And I was saying, it's wonderful. And there's some places where there's some misalignment or things to be worked through that have bubbled up. And one of those things is I'm sort of like the for better or for worse, I'm sort of a pretty independent, like, soul, and can get distracted and down the rabbit hole. You know, I was making the joke that I'm kind of like the kid with the frog in my pocket who's maybe doing something he shouldn't be doing in the barn, but it's really innocent and well-intended. And so, you know, off like doing my thing at me and this person that I've been seeing, we went to actually Abundance last weekend, right? Your event. And then there was an after party at Syrup Loft where I saw you and I was hanging out with you. And interestingly enough, part of what I was reporting back to you tied into your former partner who was there. And I was there with my date. Yeah. I was there with my my date, and you know, I'm talking to your former partner, or however I should refer to her, our mutual friend, dear friend, and my date got a little like, okay, you're gone for 30 minutes, and you should be, you know, you're kind of ignoring me a little bit, and are you going to leave with this person? And all these scenarios were playing out in her head, and you know, it kind of brought up like some of the places that, you know, there maybe would be challenges. I had someone tell me once upon a time, Chris, like when you start dating someone, you'll often see right away the challenges that end up splitting you up. And this is something that it's like, okay, well, I was being sort of in my head, you know, very social butterfly kind of personality. There's a lot of people there. I'm just chatting it up with someone else, my friend. But it sort of brought up these, first there was that. And then I said I was going to, you know, be somewhere in 30 minutes and I wasn't there for, you know, an hour plus. And so it sort of led to these potential, I guess, blockages of, you know, what are getting in the way and how can I improve and grow and learn from these situations without trying to say, well, here's what's wrong with you. And that's what you and I were talking about this morning. So, hopefully that makes sense to everyone.
I've never heard you so swirly. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's a little, I'm trying to decide how much information to go into or not. And so, yeah, it just has been, I don't quite know where to go with it from here. Maybe you have some insight that you want to share at this point.
Okay. So, yeah, first, what I'd like to say is you are always such a great reflection coach and teacher for me, and thank you. So grateful for our connection. And what I would invite into this conversation is just to be very matter of fact about what you're dealing with, what's going on. And then let's make this a really precise coaching conversation with precision and velocity. Right. And cut to all this. What I'm hearing from you is that you're experiencing a feeling of disempowerment with this girl, and that, you know, her perception of you
I know there's going to be some people that are triggered by the word girl because it happened to me a while back when I used it. So I think that's yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, what I'm hearing is that this wonderful woman who you are so excited by, right, is not seeing you in a way that you feel is worthy of how you deserve to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, it's sort of like, here I am just being like innocent in my head and playful and just, you know, out socializing. In her head, it's like, oh, he's about to leave with someone else and he's ignoring me. And It's like, okay, how do we get on the same page? And is this person too, you know, is our perspectives too different? Whereas I'm such a free spirit and, you know, kind of thing. And she's more traditional maybe. And then you have these expectations of what the person is supposed to behave like. And then what is appropriate really is the question, you know?
So yeah, let's keep focused on, rather than taking it into appropriate or right and wrong, let's actually just look at what's going on, see the impact, of their actions on you and your perceptions, and then vice versa. Like, see where we can get you back centered into power again. So what I'm hearing is that she was upset with you about you giving more attention to somebody else. Right. And then the next thing I was hearing is that she was also upset with you about not being on time. Does that sound right?
Or her coming down to visit first, and then me saying, "Oh, you're almost here," and I just realized I have an interview scheduled, and so that seemed like disrespectful of her time. She lives about an hour away, and it's like, "Hey, this interview will only take an hour or so, so maybe you can have something to work on or whatever." And meanwhile, we have plans for that night, and so I ended up rescheduling that. But then, and then even getting home, I was sort of late getting home from meeting her, and unintentionally, but just hung up at my office, and so it's a combination of these things that just like bubbled up. And as you and I were talking about it, you had such great insight. I just want to try and unpack as much as we can for other people, because as you even said, it's like reflections of things that you've dealt with in your own life, even very recently. And I'm sure that's the case with a lot of people listening.
So in the context to the time, what I'm hearing is, first, what I'm hearing is not feeling fully seen, honored, and appreciated by her.
Maybe some misjudgment about like what my intentions are, or that I would, intentionally be late, for some reason as a power play, or I'm going to actually, even though I came to this event with her, I'm going to leave with someone else. So things that really are the furthest from my mind, but those are things that, that was her perspective or perception or concern. And I'm thinking, wow, I know we're just getting to know each other, but that's like so far from who and what I am,
Right. And I don't deserve to be looked at that way. Yeah. And totally get that. And it's such an awesome reflection, because I've had the same thing happen for me, especially since I think you and I are both very giving people. And we tend to like be so generous. What I've gotten to see actually is that a part of, wherever there's dysfunction in our lives, we tend to always look at the person who's bringing it to our attention as being the source of the dysfunction. When in fact, if we use our last conversations about, coming from oneness rather than coming from separation, then what we see is, okay, well, if I hear that person attacking me through the lens of separation, I defend myself, and then I make them wrong. And I'm like, well, you're not seeing me. And that just it confounds things, or compounds them. If we come from a place of oneness and love, then all you hear is love. And you see, this person is actually, even in their attacking me right now, it's not, I don't have to view it as an attack. I can be thankful. Thank you so much for letting me know that this is how I'm coming across to you.
That's a huge, huge point that you're making, by the way. Think of what a shift in dynamic and approach to conflict, that the implications of that. I mean, everyone listening, like, probably not very often have any of us entered into, a disagreement or conflicting opinions or viewpoints with someone else, and we're only sort of approaching it from like that perspective.
Yeah. So, the big thing I think to notice here is like, so if you can be grateful for that, you start looking for what's the gift in her expressing this to you. And what can you take responsibility for, where you have power? Right. Because wherever we don't take responsibility, we have no power. And this is this comes back to, like, I think I shared one of my favorite things from Spider-Man. Is there's this saying that with great power comes great responsibility. Right. And at the same time, with great responsibility also comes great power. Right. And very often we look at responsibility as this thing that we want to have as little of as possible, right? Because we don't want to be wrong, right? But in fact, wherever we don't take responsibility in our lives, we have no power.
Right.
So if we take 100% responsibility for everything that's happening in our lives, then we have 100% power with what's happening. Doesn't mean that we control what's occurring in this moment, but it means that we are taking control where we can of being the space for the greatest or the possible outcome.
Yeah.
And so in this scenario, like when she's sharing that stuff with you, yeah, you could look at it as, well, you're not really seeing me. You're not appreciating me because I'm worthy of, because I'm such a generous, giving, loving, caring person. Instead, now I can look at it as, well, thank you for letting me know that this is your experience of me. Right. That's not what I'm committed to. Like, right. I want to be empowered to, and thank you for sharing this with me so that I can be empowered to be the space for you to know how loved, honored, and appreciated you are.
Right.
And so from that space now, it's like, oh, I can take responsibility for, what? You're totally right that I'm not having integrity with my word in terms of when I said I was going to be here. And it sounds like also, like if you said you were going to be there at a certain time and then you're not, like I know you to be one of the most giving, loving, caring individuals I've ever met. Brandon, like you have such this love for humanity and for people. Right?
I do.
Yeah. And what it sounds like is what she's letting you know is that your way of being is actually not occurring to her that way.
Right.
So rather than making her wrong for not seeing you the way you want her to see you, instead you can be empowered by saying, what am I doing or how am I being that is creating a space for others not to see me because I'm committed to it. And now you have power in you. Right?
So let me ask you this, and I think it's super empowering to always bring what you're saying is bring it back to yourself. Yeah. Don't be caught up on maybe they are having perceptions through the lens of a past, negative relationship where someone did manipulate them or, was bailed on them at an event in a very disrespectful way or, not thoughtful way, or would manipulate their time as a power play. So let's say that someone is seen through that lens based off of past experience, right? And then I think there's some level of, you can acknowledge and see that, okay, you're sort of dragging this filter and overlaying it on me. But at the same time, even if that's going on, my takeaway from our conversation, even before turning this on, the recording on, was even if there's some of that happening, I think in a lot of instances, that sort of thing does happen in relationships and interaction. There's still some underlying truth that's being presented that's a reflection that's showing me where, okay, maybe instead of saying I'll be there in 30 minutes, I'm going to do my aim is to be there in 30 minutes, although I'm not 100% sure, so I'm not going to say definitively because something could arise as it did. Or, just, okay, this person is saying that, I was not giving them a lot of attention and focus, and I'm talking to other people a lot at this event. Maybe there is maybe I do need to reassess and be like, how check in with myself instead of being so like free spirited and just like, I'm going to be me and let the cards fall where they may. How does what I'm doing affect someone else? And, there may be instances where it's like, okay, what they're looking for and what's comfortable for me aren't in alignment. That could happen.
It's your responsibility is never a burden in the sense that, in this case, you're not like, you don't owe her anything. Right. And at the same time, you can be responsible for how you're occurring to people. Because if you
that's an important distinction.
Yeah. If you had told her ahead of time, hey, we're going to be at this event and, I have this tendency at times to, be like this, floating
social
roving
butterfly.
social butterfly, and I just want you to know that it's in no way, shape, or form a reflection of, how I feel about you. And if you're ever feeling like, like you're not getting enough love, care, or attention, please let me know.
Mm-hmm.
If you preempted the whole night with that, you would have been in a much different space with her.
Yeah, totally.
You empower her
and
to
she
know
handled
ahead
it
of time.
very gracefully. She handled it very gracefully in the moment, and even came up to me and kind of like made it known how she was feeling in a very sweet and not angry way whatsoever. And I was like, oh, and it kind of snapped me back, and like, oh, okay, yeah, let me come back over and spend time with you, who I'm just getting to know anyway. And that probably makes sense. It's like it's just occurring to me, and then of course when it comes up later, there's a little more energetic unpacking, if you will, behind it that probably stems from history and things like that. And but I think what you're saying is spot on. Like, get to know yourself. What my takeaway is from this is like getting to really know myself, and instead of continuing to do these same things. And I've had that cycle, or that message has been brought to me many times in relationships over the years. Like, me sort of like down this other rabbit hole tangent and not giving attention, quality time to my partner. Right. And so instead of just keep hearing that over and over and thinking, oh, well, that's just who I am. It's like, oh, okay, well, how can I really communicate? It's what did you say earlier? How you had a statement when we were talking earlier about communication being.
Communication is oneness. Co is with. Union is oneness, and ication is the action of. So it means the action of being one with another person. Right.
There's something. Maybe I heard it in a video or something. There's something that was really well said.
We talked about this also in terms of like I brought up Landmark and how they have this amazing communication curriculum.
Right. Yeah. That's it.
There's 3 parts to their communication curriculum. The first part is called Access to Power. The second one is called Power to Create. And then they have a thing called Team, which is where you like get mastery and the distinctions from those 2 courses. And it's like a year, 2 or 3 year long program. And the Access to Power, which is the intro to the communication course, is brilliant because, it says where your access to having communication is. Well, first they tell you anything that you want is possible through communication. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, that's what I was trying to remember. That's powerful. And then your access to the power of communication is first in that first course. It's really about your listening. It's how you're listening to people. Because you're listening to her through this lens of I'm not being honored, I'm not being appreciated, I'm not being loved. And you have this whole history of how you listen to people when they're talking to you. You made her saying those things to you mean that she wasn't really valuing you. Right? Or seeing you as you are. Right. When in fact, she's seeing you the way she sees you, and she's sharing that with you. Right. And the fact that she's even expressing it is a testament to her love and care for you. Right. Right? So what an asshole you are to look at her and shit on her for sharing that with you. You turn everything inside out. All of a sudden, through the lens of oneness, you see that, oh, wow, wherever I'm interpreting you as less than, that's actually you that's creating that. Right. And you seeing her testament or her expression of love toward you as anything less than that. Yeah, I think the journey for me has been from years of, no, here's why you're wrong. Here's why I'm right. Here's why you're wrong. Here's why I'm right. Creating separation, then to more recently, okay, I'm actually really listening to what you're saying. And even though it may be sort of, colored with your own past experiences in some way, there's some veins of truth that really are, there's a message in there for me for sure. And instead of focusing on where you're wrong and I'm right, where can I really grab onto those threads of truth once again, when you get into the wrong and right, Brandon, you're creating separation again. Right. And just remember that's where we tend to like default back to, because that's where we feel like we're safe.
Yep.
And it's a survival thing.
No,
but it
totally.
also creates integration and disempowerment everywhere.
Right.
So you have no power in that space. You think that power is, okay, this person isn't seeing me, the way I want to be seen. I'm going to cut them out of my life, kill them off.
Yep.
I'm going to find greener pastures. I'll find somebody who does appreciate me.
Yep.
And then basically, we don't realize that the shit that we're smelling in that relationship is one that came out of us being an asshole.
Yeah.
We're the ones shitting on everything. And then we find greener pastures somewhere. And then all of a sudden we notice that there's shit there too.
Right.
But we don't realize that we're the ones placing it there.
Yeah. I think this journey for me is, what I was saying is like a lot of like, here's where I'm right and here's why you're wrong. Okay. Whatever you're saying, it's happening for me and there's some message there, but yet still being somewhat focused on, well, what do you need to learn from this? And I think the ultimate journey lands on forget about at all what you think they may or may not need to learn from it and really bring it back to yourself. That's what I feel like is the...
As soon as you want to control what they're doing,
yep,
you're out of your power again. You're becoming a manipulator.
Mm-hmm.
And you're creating separation, which is, you're basically making a statement that you know better than they do.
Right.
And that you're superior. And there is no relationship there. There's just relationship. You're shitting all over them. You're shoulding on them in terms of how they should be. Right?
Right. Yep.
Instead of recognizing like, oh, this person is a gift to me. Right? They're expressing their love. How can I receive the gift that they're giving? And this is where if I'm not looking through the lens of right and wrong anymore, and I'm coming through the lens of oneness, I always see everything that's coming at me as a gift of love. And by doing that,
that's
you will
the key.
Actually, Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I just wanted to exclamate that point. Like that's the key. If no matter what's coming at you, you're seeing it through that lens, you're going to find the diamond in it as opposed to the lump of coal. It's like,
you'll get the greatest value from every experience. You become the space for the greatest possible outcomes in every situation when you look, listen, and speak from love.
Yeah.
And so in that space now, when she's saying that stuff to you, like, it's like, oh, there's a gift here. What is it? Here's the other thing. Instead of looking for what's right and wrong, if you just look at everything as it's all right now, it's all right.
Mm-hmm.
I love that one too. Like, it's all right now. That song.
Yeah.
And it's all right now. And in that moment, you have the opportunity to come from the place of it's all good, it's all God, it's all one, it's all love.
Yep.
And by seeing that, you will always get the gems in everything. Yep. And even if that wasn't the person's intent,
that's
irrelevant.
a key point.
Their intent is not any of your business because that, again, disempowers you.
Right.
Where you...
Yeah, focusing on their lesson in it or what they need to learn or what they need to do better. That's a big, like, you're missing. You're
shooting all over them. You're the asshole.
Yeah.
That stink that you smell is your own shit. The one who smelled it dealt it. I love that. Like all of these little kid things that we say, I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever
bounces off me sticks to you. Yes.
So it's like whatever you see is a direct, reflection of your own projections.
Yeah.
And so when you get to that place, whatever negative thoughts I'm having about someone, that's always me. And then whatever negative thoughts they're having about me is also me. Yeah. So you bring everything back to, this is where it actually benefits you to be very egocentric, very me-gocentric. Meaning if I come from the context of everything is being done for me, everything that they're saying is for me.
Yep.
This is the place where being me-gocentric is good. And that fits inside of the space of being we-go-centric. As being in the we-go and perceiving ourselves as oneness, then I can look at every other person as as supporting me in expanding my awareness, in empowering me to have a greater sense of myself and how I'm coming across.
Yeah.
And then in that space, it's like, oh, okay, wow. Yeah, that's true. I did say I was going to be home at this time and I wasn't.
Yeah.
And what's that about for me? And what I think I shared with you with the reflection that was coming up for me in your story is how much my giving very often originally comes from this place of wanting to feel loved and appreciated.
Right.
And so I'm actually giving so much, but then the quality of my gift is coming from lack. And that's actually what is landing for people.
Right.
Because I think it's a gift I'm giving them. Like I said, I was going to meet you tonight. How dare you challenge me now and that I wasn't on time?
Right.
Like I'm giving you the gift of my time. But you're actually like that gift is also carrying with it the shit of them being there an hour and you not valuing their time.
Right.
Because they put up the same commitment that you did.
Right.
And basically you're creating a space for them to perceive that their time is.
Say that again, it broke up.
You're creating the space for them to potentially experience that your time is more valuable than you.
Right, exactly.
Because they showed up on time. Where were you?
Yep.
And that's not at all what you're committed to.
Right.
You want everybody I know you to be committed to like having everybody experience how loved, honored, and appreciated they are.
For sure.
So, there's
and the navigation of that is the fine details. And, I say oftentimes I feel very wise in a lot of ways and have a lot of strong ideas that, I believe in on all kinds of subjects. And I believe the most challenging for all of us, and where we're all sort of babes in the woods in a lot of ways, is when it comes to these personal kind of romantic relationships, because they have the most opportunity for growth. And it's where I feel like we need to be extra humble in our approach to unpacking and finding the gems in these apparent, some conflicts at times from one perspective.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would just like to offer to replace need to with get to.
Get to. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Because you don't need to do anything, Brandon, but when you start getting present to the impact of certain ways of being, and that impact that it's having on others, and that's not really aligned with, your purpose and what you're committed to, being in the world, it's really easy. It's like, it's a choice,
Right.
And for me to get then related to, the quality of my giving is actually maybe not as high as I had thought it was.
Right.
It's like if I'm out there doing so much, but then I'm not showing up on time and I'm creating the space for others to like feel not fully honored, loved, and appreciated, then there's something out of alignment. Let me bring it back to center and see like
and it's even, if I really feel into myself, it's like there's even some subconscious level. It's a reflection of some subconscious level of, maybe not putting as much value on what's happening for me. And as you said, the person is, look at the commitment that they've made. And, I've definitely, if I'm honest with myself, been guilty of I take this kind of light, right? It's like, not honoring people's time and energy as much as you should, and really holding them in as much as you could. Right. Yeah. So it's man, this stuff, there's so much nuance and there's so much to unpack for all of us in these conversations. So I hope I just today was so impromptu, hey, here's something I'm dealing with. Hold on. This is all great advice. Let's turn on the microphone. I hope it really helps some of you guys out there that are dealing with these very subtle, nuanced relationships and And Chris, you're so good at, shining a light on some of this stuff. And is there anything before we kind of wrap it up that you feel like you want to share that you haven't yet?
Well, maybe let's just bring it all back into a concise package again. Kind of reinforce everything that we've just covered. So whenever we're experiencing somebody coming at us, what we perceive as an attack, right? To know that whatever energy is coming at us, we can turn anything into a problem or an opportunity.
Right.
And so it's in our power of how we're perceiving something that is actually giving us the quality of our experience. So if we're experiencing something as negative or challenging for us, that is our responsibility and our ability to respond. So if I'm experiencing something as negative, I can take responsibility for I'm the one who's experiencing it as negative. I can just as easily turn that person saying, "You're an asshole, I hate you, I never want to speak to you again," into a gift to me and say, "Thank you so much for letting me know that I'm an asshole and you hate me and you never want to speak to me again. Could you help me understand how I'm occurring to you that way so that I can be empowered to be the space for you to know how loved, honored, and appreciated you are? Because that's really what I'm committed to. And thank you for letting me know that that's not how I'm occurring to you."
Right.
Wow. Right. And then instead of thinking that your power is in cutting out toxic relationships, you realize that the only person who makes relationships toxic is you.
Right.
Because it's how you're perceiving it. It's like, and maybe we get a little time to share on this next time. Like I had this thing about my dad, he used sarcasm and name calling and stuff for so many years. And, I felt so what I thought was empowered when people told me, "Oh, my father was emotionally and verbally abusive." Because as soon as I got a hold of that, I said, "That's right. I'm a victim. He's a villain. I cut him out of my life for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And realized one day, abuse is a word that I use to label something. Like what happened? He called me names and he used sarcasm. Right? That's what happened. How I interpreted that, as soon as I put the label abuse on it, that just devalued everything. Like what I didn't see is that was my dad's way of expressing love. He really was coming from a place of wanting to help me be the best that I could be.
Right.
And the way his father did that for him was through name calling and sarcasm. And so that's all he knew.
Right.
And he experienced it differently than I did. And most of us, we don't get that because we see things through the color that we put on it.
Right.
But it's really us that put that color lens on. Like what exists has all the colors of the spectrum. When we see a color, that's us. So you have the opportunity in any situation to bring it to its highest possible reality, not by finding what you can disagree with. But see, even when somebody's calling me an asshole, I can agree with them that I'm an asshole in terms of how I'm occurring to them through their experience without saying that I'm an asshole from my experience.
That's a very important point.
And it's empowering because where you really have power is in agreement. If I disagree, I'm an asshole, and I say, "No, I'm not," all I'm doing is actually cutting myself off from getting the power of what it is that you're sharing with me.
And the funny thing is if you actually start saying, taking on their perspective, "Thank you for sharing with me that I'm an asshole," and all those things, all of a sudden what's happening inside of them? It's like all the tension around that is being dispersed, and they're thinking, well, maybe you're not an asshole because, wow, that's pretty, maybe I'm being a little harsh, right?
Yeah. We talked about this last time.
Exactly.
Yeah, that happens very often.
Yeah.
It's by being generous, we actually give people the space to own their own lack of generosity.
Right.
Without making them see, when we all start taking responsibility for ourselves, we give others permission to take responsibility for themselves.
Right.
Without forcing them to do it. You know, and the
Beautiful.
truth is we all want to be empowered. You know, so it's like when we can be the space of modeling empowerment, everybody starts tuning to that frequency with us. And then we become the space for everyone to have relationships. It's like
the dominant vibration, powerful, positive, healing vibration. It's like it's like plucking a string on a guitar, and the other, the string on a guitar next to it will start, vibrating in resonance. It's sort of like you've now brought in this, you've plucked this powerful, healing, empowering string, and it's like it affects everyone.
Yeah, I don't know any organ in the body that's more powerful than the heart.
Yeah.
Like when you think about it, the heart gives love to every part of the body.
Yeah.
If it was resisting anything, the whole fucking body dies. Pardon my language.
No.
The fact that it gives freely to everything. And I think there's actually science now that supports that the highest or the most powerful electromagnetic frequency comes out of the heart. Also the first organ in the body. You know, and when you think
that
about
is created.
that it's love.
Love is the answer. Now, what was the question, Chris? Thank you for taking the time, my friend, to unpack all this juicy goodness with me, with everyone. I hope it's helpful for any of you guys out there who want to turn relationships into relationships.
Relationships.
Even the next level. Chris, I'm sure you've told people before. Why don't you tell them again if people want to contact you? You do some coaching stuff on this topic and others. If anyone feels inspired and called, maybe they can reach out to you.
So it's Christopher David Jackson. Right now on Facebook, Divine Design. DIVINE Design DESIG.
Perfect. Well, my friend, it has been a pleasure and honor. I do have a song here to leave you guys with. I decided I would play our mutual superhero friend, Josiah. Josiah has a newer track called Khalid. That is a good one. So we're going to leave you guys with Khalid. Until next time, journey well. Love you all so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon.
Also, if you're craving more consciousness elevating content, be sure to check out Gaia, which is my personal go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web, where you can stream an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. As you all hear me constantly say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to journey deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place I know of to do it, period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out.
bad boy name on the street. But we not afraid of no robber, we not afraid of no thief. And the informer boy, we afraid of brownie. Come we rip it up, we run the things. No pass a bad boy name on the street. But we not afraid of no robber, we not afraid of no thief. And the informer boy, we afraid of brownie. Come we rip it up, we run the things. No pass a bad boy name on the street. But I just afraid to win, there's only one thing that was sweet to me. We don't oversee. I just afraid to win, there's only one to win. Kick only one to win, kick only one.